Eko nene, so kuna swali fulani libaki nimeuliza boy anaitwa Levi Mnyeri. Of course Levi Mnyeri is a lawyer and I was asking him about the court case that was against compensation, and how the compensation committee had been formed. And I remember asking, like, do the families actually support this? And I remember your time nikipata like backlash from watu kadhaa walikuwa na believe that there is no moving forward without justice. And I was saying that even economic justice is justice in itself. Why? Like, if a lot of people that die kwa hizi rallies and die kwa what inakuwaga ni males, and these males mostly utapata ni people who take care of their families and they'd use that money because the worst thing juu ya kifo ni hakuna mtu anaweza rudi. So, and kifo pia how hai safeguardigi like the people wamebaki nyuma, like somehow they are safe from bills. If there was rent being paid, the rent still has to be paid. So hii story baki may come up sasa jana kwa hizi stories za celebrations. Wacha tusikize.
Victims and families affected by the Gen Z protests have renewed their calls for justice, accountability and compensation for lives lost and injuries sustained. As the country marked the 62nd Jamhuri Day celebrations, many of those still recovering, along with families who lost loved ones, said the celebrations carry little meaning while justice remains out of reach. Months after the unrest, no compensation has been issued following a High Court decision halting the planned payout. The court ruled that the compensation panel appointed by the president and its framework were unconstitutional and lacked the legal mandate to operate.
So anachukua story ya unconstitutional, and I think one of the conversations we had to have with Levi, when he had Levi Mnyeri, he was talking about how the Kenyan court system works, where it's such a good constitution that it can be misused. And misused in what way? Like, we can make processes to be harder than they necessarily need to be. So ye mwenyewe kwa nabonga juu ya how corruption cases waga zina slip through because of the constitution. Of course, I feel like something can be done about that. But he come to hii, saizi now this whole thing has been halted. But the families actually don't feel like it's a victory, because a lot of people looking at it as a victory are the people looking at it from the perspective of like the president. Najua, we are against this president, so this president needs to lose in everything. But the families on the other side, especially wale maybe breadwinners walidedishwa and they don't have any way to make money, they're like, we'd rather get that small compensation. Let's get that as we look for this other justice. Like, the prosecutions of the cops that still committed these murders still need to continue. But in the meantime, wacha pesa itoke, but wacha tusikia.
As Kenyans across the country marked the 62nd Jamhuri Day celebrations, with the President William Ruto leading the national ceremony at Nyayo Stadium.
Not yet! Jamhuri! Not yet! Jamhuri!
Families of those who lost their lives and others who were injured during the Gen Z protest gathered with human rights activists to renew their calls for justice, accountability, and compensation for every life lost and every dream disrupted.
While other Kenyans gather in festivity, we gather in grief. Our children were maimed, tortured, disappeared and killed while bravely advancing the very ideals upon which this day was founded.
Hakuna mali haipo wametusaidia. Tunazika mandugu zetu, tunazika masista zetu, tunazika makoli zetu, baba zetu, kaka zetu, ndugu wadogo wetu. Hakuna mali wametusaidia.
For the families whose loved ones were killed, the pain remains raw and extreme. Parents such as Phoebe Akumo Maina, mother of 15-year-old Kevin Odhiambo.
Damn, these are vitu susahawigi. Like, there's a lot of innocent like bystanders. Kusikia stories a 15-year-old, then you remember I think kulikuwa na ule boy mwingine, ule madhaki alikuwa anasema alikuwa na expect a call from the president. I think that one was a 12-year-old. Then come up majuzi Bridget Njoki, I think, like, it's crazy. I think she was also 12. Like, damn, when you think about that, and it's scary. It's scary.
And Caroline Mutisia, mother of Erickson Chalo Mutisia, say the absence of their children is a wound that has not healed months after the unrest.
Kukula ni shida. Presha imenishika na sikukuwa nayo. In fact, ni shida sana kwangu. Ni shida. Hata natamani tu nikufe.
Sasa ni 1 year na nusu tangu aange. Eric namuonanga kila siku, njoo unajua nimeshika simu yake. namuonanga kila siku. Na silalangi bila kuona video zake mimi venye alikuwa na dance. Nilikwambia Eric alikuwa anapenda kudance na ndugu yake.
I think Eric Askorong alidedishwa on the 25th. I think he was one of the people who was killed on ilikuwa ni Parliament Road. So yeah.
Kwa hivyo nikiwaangalia tu nasema Eric angekuwa tu hai.
Survivors who sustained injuries continue to face daily challenges. Dennis Kamau Washira, who lost a leg after being shot, says rebuilding his life has been difficult as he can no longer carry out the work he once did.
Kutoka niliuzi mguu, sijakuwa nikienda hustle venye nilikuwa naenda kwa sababu si ni watu wa jua kali. And then kazi inakuanga tu kubahatisha. And then sasa unaona sasa uko na mguu mmoja, hadi unaenda kwa mtu kumuomba kazi and then anakuambia like manze haiwezi.
The victims and their families say they will continue pressing for justice, insisting that they will not rest until it is served.
So yeah, hapa nizataka kujua like like from them, do the cases against the cops need to like zimalizwe kwanza ndio kuwe na compensation, or can they use the compensation right now? That's one of the things that I'd want to hear from them, najua. And I'd say that this is also one of those things where I'd say that pursue it, lakini sikuipursue vile niko nafaa kuipursue like hiyo level ya kufuatilia na kupata like one of the victims parents ama victims ndio nisikie like how they want it, because I always feel like this compensation is going to go a very long way. I don't live in a perfect world where compensation means nothing. I also don't live in the perfect world where like victims, families somehow responsibilities zao reduce because their loved ones were dead. So yes, the process might not be Nini, but wase wakiargue against compensation, they also need to come up with a way and say this is the right way to do it and this is the right and the shortest way to do it. Alafu inabaki imefanywa. And yeah, because sasa the law is on us, so tusifanye hii haga ama ni kama ni us ni punda tupige mateke ile ifai kutupiga.
Hata kama justice haiwezi patikana, ng'ang'aneni wale kina Khalid, ng'ang'aneni at least roho itulie.
Their quest for compensation suffered a setback after the High Court halted the government's planned compensation program. The court ruled that the panel appointed by the president and its framework for compensating victims lacked constitutional backing and legal authority, affirming that the mandate to investigate violations and recommend redress lies with the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, KNCHR. For victims of the protest and their families, this year's Jamhuri Day celebrations carry little meaning. Months after the unrest, they are still waiting for justice and compensation, a process now stalled after legal challenges forced the courts to suspend the compensation plan pending further review.
So the courts may suspend, and the question is, I'd want to know from them, because it's very easy for us from the outside looking in to say this is not right, this is not constitution, but what about the families? Do the families feel like they need to go through your process pole pole hivyo? That would be something that would be interesting to hear. But another interesting thing happened on Jamhuri Day, and that was history HSC inakuwa the head of state commendation. So SPM bus, kulikuwa na SPM bus hosts Shiko Gitau and Silva Kido receive head of state commendation honors from President William Ruto. So Silva Kido of course tunamjuaga na kwa frontline kabisa, so alibaki ame receive this. But then I remember also I saw a few performances. So one of the performances niliona ilikuwa nianguka nayo, so wa Douglas, alafu nikakumbuka that they also performed pale at State House, and there was a lot of backlash from that. And then if I'm not wrong, majuzi tulikuwa na Charisma, alafu Charisma alisema that he was invited to perform, alafu akakataa out of principle, kabaki amesema haizi perform, which I respect. Alafu sasa what happened on that specific day, one of the biggest songs in Kenya, if not the biggest song, Donjo Maber, ilikuwa performed. Na apart from Donjo Maber kuwa performed, ni Ian Oure alikuwa pia honored. Of course kuna shido ni nani, ni Iani. And one thing that I can say I'm happy about is I've gone through the comments and I've not seen the level of inaitwa nini that I saw last year, the level of cancel culture ile nilikuwa na cheki last year. I feel like this year tumekuwa more what is it called, like accommodating, because from the comments nimecheki hapa wase walikuwa na wana understand. So wacha tucheki.
Yanni's musical journey is a vibrant testament to talent, persistence, and creative evolution. Rising from school choirs to national fame, he honed his craft at Sauti Academy before breaking into the limelight with Bamba Pia in 2018. His runaway hit, Donjo Maber, has propelled him into East Africa's top charts, surpassed 18 million views, and was named the 2025 Song of the Year. Through collaboration with leading artists and growing global persistence, Yanni has become a symbol of modern Kenyan music and a beacon for young creatives. He is awarded the Head of State Commendation, HSC.
So na check hapo from the comments, you can actually see that people are happy for him. Unajua, I expected people to cancel him the way Wadaglis walikuwa cancelled, and I think this should be the way going forward. Like, we have to be able to separate things, that him performing at that event, him receiving the Head of State Commendation, does not mean that somehow ameendorse two-term. No, that's just him. EHSC inakuwaga something that of course I think msewa ule msewa Nini alipataga msewa Githeri, but still it's something that anyone would want. Unajua, mimi nikiambiwa Africa HSC podcasting, I'll go and pick it up. Why? Because sometimes you want to be recognized and what. So I was happy to see that watu wakutry kucancel Yanni. Yeah, so this happened, and all naeza sema ni congratulations to Yanni. Najua I'm sure like the journey, because this has been a very interesting year for him. Donjo Maber was huge, and he also showed us how to promote something, because I can't like even count the amount of challenges nilicheki ye mwenyewe as Yanni doing for that song, and for that song to have reached the levels that it reached, unajua. Then after hapo, of course, Nkadu Rumors na Dufla did really well. Alafu saizi pia Tamu imetokea and it's doing really well. So this has been a great year for Yanni, and it's a sort of year that we should be happy for him. Unajua, we should be zile za, hey, you know what, you worked your ASS off and you've ended up, unajua, like making getting something out of it, and that's a beautiful thing to see. Yes, Ekonene. So the festive season is here na Lemfi wako na a very great offer kwako. Abaki umesign up ukitumia the promo code Ekonene, and on your first transaction ya $50 ukisend home unabaki umepata a $20 sign up reward. Najua, $20 sign up reward on your first transaction of $50 only. Why? Because it's the festive season. Baki umechangamka, tumia promo code Ekonene, ingia Lemfi, why? Upate the most competitive exchange rates, alafu pia inakuwaga ni chap like transactions ziko instant. Changamka haraka, Lemfi, international payments for everyone. Ekonene. Atutoka hapo wacha tuende US kidogo. So US, of course, majuzi kuna vile kina Ruto wameishia maju. Walienda kwa the signing of that peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. Of course, Rwanda na Congo tayari zishaanza kuteta. Wanatoleana zile za wewe unafanya hivi, wewe unafanya hivi. Na hiki tulifanyaga wase wengi sana wakasifu Trump. Wakasema that Trump anadu kitu ile like the Democrats could not be able to do. But ila sio kawaida, kitu ni bambaga nayo ni wagena kuambia why he did something. Wacha tusikize.
Everybody was supposed to have an electric car by the year like 2030 or some ridiculous year like that. It's just not going to be that way. I don't think it'll be some like hybrids, some kind of like gasoline powered. I mean, the nice thing about gasoline is we have 2,000 years worth of we have more gasoline, we have more oil and gas than any country anywhere in the world. Is that right? And they want us to go to batteries. Let's go to batteries. We don't have battery content. So let's go to batteries, according to these morons that were in our country. Let's not use oil and gas, which we have more than any country in the world. Let's go to batteries.
And ikikam to story ya oil and gas, and I think because this is such a true statement, because one of the things that I noticed is fuel is actually cheaper, man, in the US than Kenya. Hiyo ni kitu moja ilinishtua sana. Mi kuwa expect ati mafuta US itakuwa more expensive because the cost of living iko high, so I expect mafuta ikuwe high. Unapata I think liter moja, if I'm not wrong, is around $1, if not less than $1. That's for 1 liter. Because I uzaga vitu in gallons, and I think like a whole gallon is like maybe $3, $4. Koko states back umesema, but I remember nikiwa huko, like nikifanya the calculation in my mind, I found that was cheaper huko than Kenya, and that was like, damn, I didn't expect. Nikona expect first world, everything is expensive, cost of living, what? Considering how expensive taxis are, damn, okay.
Let's go to batteries. Well, we have to go to the Congo and get it from China. But I actually stopped the war with Congo and Rwanda, and they said to me, please, please, we would love you to come and take our minerals, which we'll do.
Skero vile nasema, we'd love you to come and take our minerals, which we'll do, because of course US haifanyagi chochote where America doesn't benefit. So yes, that peace deal was signed. Those two countries are still fighting, and let's see how that goes. And one day Africa needs to wake up and realize that, especially place ka Congo, they have enough minerals to be the next Saudi Arabia, the next Qatar, the next one of these countries. But as long as wameamua kuwa very like small-minded, they are going nowhere. Nacheki, because these countries kakina Dubai, even for them to come up na hizi stories za Emiratis, it was a good thing. Even divide it into small pieces, have the big cake, and then see what's up. But if you want to keep fighting, you'll keep fighting. Tuta blame the white man, but for how long? At some point, lazima tuseme, yes, unaweza try to influence, but we can also say no. We can also look at the bigger picture. But if we decide we don't want to look at the bigger picture, then what happens? Someone will take advantage of us forever and ever. Why? Because nature, number one rule na the survival of the fittest. And the fittest does not have to be muscle. So zingine za kuwa ni hiyo pia. Eko nene.